Hello and welcome to NEISH Conversations. I'm Gillian NEISH. I'm a trainer, do anti-racist training and challenging power inequities. And for many years I've known Sandra Harrison, who's with me, and together we have made some films, which you can also get on YouTube. We made some recently, and it was at Sandra's suggestion that we do these live streams. So here I am, very exciting, if a bit outside my comfort zone. And what we're going to do is to continue the conversations about challenging racism. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, Sandra.
Pleasure. And thank you for joining.
Yes.
So we are still talking about racism. We started this 20 years ago. We're still making videos. We're still talking about it. What is racism and why are we still talking about it?
Well, of course, racism is the belief that one group of people is inferior to others, and then using power, economic, social, political power to treat them differently, so that you create a power relationship, some in a more powerful place and some therefore in a less powerful place. Although there is racism, it makes no sense because there is only one race, a human race, and there are as many differences in one group as there are in any other group, however you choose to define your group. But although, as I say, there is only one race, racism does exist. It kills, sometimes literally, but it certainly kills the motivation, aspiration of many people. And when you consider people are our most valuable resource, what a waste. And what a waste in this world that we're in at the moment, when we need all the talents we can gather together to get us through all the problems we're experiencing.
So why are we still having these conversations?
Yeah.
You do a lot of work around this. There's a lot of conversations. We've just produced a video with many people from all over the UK coming together and giving experiences of a new kind of racism, if that's such a thing. Why? Why is this still out there? Why are we still having to have conversations about it?
Yeah, we need to still have the conversations because racism and xenophobia is on the rise quite deliberately, to divide people, to have people blaming others further down the ladder for the ills in society, the economic problems, rather than stopping to look further up the ladder to see why systems are operating in a way that quite deliberately exploit some to the advantage of others. And so we need people both to understand that and to be more comfortable about recognising that that's the reality, accepting that that's the reality, being able to recognise that, yes, diversity is the reality, but it only becomes a problem when we add that better-worse divide. And when they can understand all that, to be much more active and intentional about challenging it, because, as I say, it doesn't work for any of us. And in fact, understanding the way it works means that we can also draw parallels, because there are parallels to be drawn with other isms that may in other people in less powerful groups. So to challenge it creates a much better environment for us all to thrive, for us all to be able to use our skills and talents to the best, for the best benefit of us all.
There was a saying you wanted to mention with regards to isms. What was the saying from the Disability Act, was it?
Well, that's about, around some of those practicalities around challenging power inequities. I think in terms of creating an inclusive culture, I think there are 5 simple steps really. And yes, the second one for me is about working with others it's and that saying that you mention is that comes from the disability movement, is nothing about us without us. Because too often the debates about challenging are debates that are held with people in the more powerful group about people in the less powerful group without them being involved in the conversation. And then we wonder why, you know, things don't work out.
So I've jumped the gun a little bit there then, Gillian.
Jumping the gun,
I've gone into number 2 of our 5 simple steps. So let's get back to number 1.
For me.
How do we challenge? What
Absolutely.
are the practical ways of challenging racism?
Absolutely. So the first thing, I suppose, for me is about looking at ourselves and making sure that we walk the talk, because many people talk the talk, talk a good game about treating people fairly, and you know, it is easy to say that, but do we really understand? Are we really acting in anti-racist ways, anti-oppressive ways, rather than non-racist ways? You know, and as I say, if we accept that the understanding of racism is to treat some people as if they're inferior to others, then to operate in a non-racist way is almost to just accept that maybe that's the case, and to not challenge it, so that people can sometimes just not say anything. And our silence can sometimes be taken as agreement or just as collusion with the power inequity that is the reality. Whereas to be anti-racist is to accept that people are treated unfairly and to acknowledge that it's not fair and to say something about it, to do things differently, to get back to a place where we can treat everybody with respect and dignity. So it's about doing that intentionally. Sometimes we can act as if there are shared values, that everybody sees things from the same perspective, from the same point of view as we do, whoever we is, you know, whoever is making a judgment about the values in that kind of situation, assuming that everybody agrees with us. And therefore, we can sometimes be surprised when somebody then makes a comment that is clearly racist or offensive in some way or another, and be a bit gobsmacked as to what we might say in response. And that can be, you know, that can mean difficult conversations. So there are advantages, I think, in being kind of proactive, you know, not waiting for something to go wrong. And certainly this is easier in organisations, in situations where groups of people are coming together and working together. It's very much easier to be proactive about what you expect about the way people work together, rather than to, you know, have these assumed shared values. And then when somebody does say something, everybody's shocked, or they get into trouble and we come down on them like a ton of bricks. Yeah. So it's about walking the talk intentionally. And because we know there are as many differences in any group as in any other group, that doesn't mean to say we're always going to get things right, because, you know, we're never going to know it all. There's never going to be one answer in those situations. So it's about being kind to ourselves and recognising that in ourselves, so that we can also appreciate that in other people. Because the reality is we aren't born racist. Most people don't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to be racist today, or I'm going to be sexist, or I'm going to be any kind of ist. But sometimes that happens because of the way we've learned what we know, and doing things the way we've always done them without thinking about the implications and the different impact that might have on people. So it's about recognising in an honest way that it's not surprising. We sometimes think what we think about some things that's influenced us, and that's the same for other people. so that we're in a better place to more confidently, with understanding, with empathy, challenge people. Because as I say, it's not surprising sometimes people think what they think. So it's about, yes, walking the talk. And then, as I said, it's about working with others.
Yeah.
And some people think that means they have to give up having an opinion, or that only people from black communities, black people of colour can challenge racism. No, it's everybody's responsibility. It's not just women can challenge sexism. It's everybody's responsibility to do that. It's in everybody's interests to do that. So it's then about, what are we going to do? Are we going to take action, or are we just going to let things stay as they are? So we have the choice to use our power, and we've all got some power, some influence with people, whether it's because we're in the more powerful group, whether it's because we've got a position or a role in an organisation, or because we've got the power that comes with the confidence to be able to speak out and share our understanding, our knowledge, our belief in that reality, that actually there's no such thing as a superior group and an inferior group. We are just one race, a human race. And to get people through drawing them into conversations to stop and think and to acknowledge that actually that is the truth. Whenever we think about our own group, whatever our own group is, we're not all the same. And it's just the same in any other group of people. So it's about taking action, as I say, is that third point. So what are you going to do to make sure we create those spaces? And sometimes that's as easy as taking on board legislation and taking on board your policies. Most organisations, for example, have brilliant policies, but if they're just taking up space on the hard drive, then that's not as valuable as having conversations about, so what does it mean to us as a group of people to create an inclusive space? What does that mean to the way we work with each other? So it's about taking action, and action has can have targets and timescales, so that you can see progress. You can see what you're doing. You can see progress, which encourages people to keep taking action, to realise that what they do actually makes a difference. And then it's about building on those experiences. And let's face it, sometimes we do something that doesn't work. And around some of these issues, there can be the temptation to back off and say, well, it didn't work, I don't want to get involved again. But actually, it's what you need to do is just stop. So why didn't it work? What did we do wrong? What could we do differently? And then to move forward with that. And I actually think that sometimes when we get things wrong, that can be positive role modelling for people around about, actually. Because if you get something wrong and work it through, then it can let other people know that actually I might sometimes get something wrong, but I can deal with it. We can deal with it and move forward without going to a place of, being... what's the word? But punishing people around it. It's not the word I'm looking for. But humiliating people, all of those kinds of things. And then the fifth thing I think is really important is celebrating the success. As a way of, again, encouraging people to keep going and thinking about what they can do differently, and about sharing learning, because sometimes. One person is struggling to discover a wheel that someone else has already got rolling. So it's about how you do that as well. So it's five simple steps, but they're not easy.
I was thinking that as you were saying it, actually.
And the reason they're not easy is because of all the emotion around things. And the emotion is being fueled. And that's what I mean about the kind of rise in racism, xenophobia at the moment. It's being fueled all the time. So we need to challenge it. We really need to be more comfortable about challenging, and challenging doesn't always have to be confrontational. But you know, so it's about repeat all of those things. Yeah, it's simple steps but not easy steps, so we need to build on and build on and build on, and to work with others in doing that. You know, I think that's really important. You know, it's that whole thing about, it can seem so huge, and it's that whole thing about, you know, how do you eat an elephant? Not that I would ever eat an elephant, or I'm not encouraging people to eat elephants, but, you know, how would you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And quite frankly, meals are best shared with friends. So the more people you've got on side, making sure you take things forward and create those spaces, the better.
Like you said, those support systems, the support networks are
worth their weight in absolute gold.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
They really are. Yeah, because some people, sometimes, any of us, not some people, me too sometimes, you can feel, am I the only one that gets this, is seeing this?
Yeah.
And yet, you know, sometimes people are around you are thinking the same things, but they don't want to say anything either, in case there's a bit of a backlash. Because you know, we're social beings; we like to belong, and sometimes you think you're going to be frozen out. And let's face it, the reality for some people is at times they have been frozen out.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be in that kind of position. So that can stop people speaking up, and that's why I think, you know, we do need to be proactive. You know, don't just have policies. What does it mean for the way people work together? And there's a reason for that. You know, we want to create spaces where people can do the best work.
Yes.
You know, there's a business case around it, if you like. We want people to be doing the best work. So how do we create the spaces where that can happen?
And those backlashes and the fear of speaking out fuels the sort of potentially why people are a little bit afraid or scared to challenge racism to start with.
Yes, there's no the buzzwords around psychological safety. You know, people are concerned what will happen. So we need to think about creating, how do we create that psychological safety? I really like the work that Amy Edmondson has done around all of this, and she talks a lot about the importance of leaders in creating spaces. And leaders is not just about your hierarchy, the hierarchy and people's position in organisations. It's thinking about the power we have and the influence, how we, any of us, all of us, can use it in different settings. But that the role of leaders is about making themselves accessible, of course. It's about admitting they don't know everything, and around all of this, no one's ever going to know absolutely everything, and therefore being able to model that kind of curiosity and being willing to invite opinions from people round about, and dealing with what they're told in productive ways. And many leaders are really good at, you know, making themselves accessible, creating that space where they can, you know, have a learning environment and all of those kinds of things, and inviting people to tell them what they really think. But some aren't very good at dealing with what they're told.
Yes.
And if people are not good at dealing with what they're told, then that creates tension and mistrust, not just with the person who's raised issues, questioned, challenged, whatever, but also with anybody else who knows that that's happened. And therefore, their reaction then is to not say anything, just keep their heads down and not say anything. So when we don't talk about the issues, of course, the issues don't go away. It's just that we're not talking about the issues. So we need to create spaces where we accept that sometimes people will make genuine mistakes, and that's not surprising when you consider how we learn what we know. We do not grow up neutral. We grow up surrounded by power relationships that give us messages about who we are in relation to others and what that means.
And having worked with you for 20 years, I can already hear how you drill down on that in your work, which is available on YouTube. And it's well worth a watch. It's so incredibly educational. I'm just going to have a look if there's anything coming in from our callers and viewers.
Ooh.
And I think there is a question that's been fed in, which is basically, be prepared for this one.
Oh.
How do we maintain some sort of inner peace whilst also fighting the racism being perpetuated by black and brown politicians who are defending white supremacy?
Oh gosh, there's a lot in there. And it's interesting the power behind the term white supremacy. And if we take some of that, because as I said, one of the 5 simple steps, it's not easy because of the emotion, and the emotion that comes from, right, white supremacy. For some people, it triggers all sorts of stuff. And what we mean by that is the way we get information means things around white people are always likely or far more likely to be in a much more positive place than things around people from black and minority ethnic communities. And in fact, we learn so much more about people in that more powerful place, which, as I've said before, means that if you have one person from that majority community who does something horrendous, we think about it in relation to the one person as opposed to the group. Whereas for people from black communities, we hear much less information, and the information we get is often selective and is more likely to be about the unusual, the exotic, the criminal. So if somebody from that place does something horrendous, then that feeds into a stereotype about the group rather than being seen as something about the individual. So sometimes, because of the emotion around that whole notion of white supremacy, people stop listening anyway, and it takes them to a fight, that survival brain place, fight, flight, freeze. But in terms of how people are experiencing racism, it is really difficult to hear people you consider to be within your own group come out with phrases and as politicians policies that actually reinforce, exaggerate the power inequities in our society and punish people in the less powerful place for economic ills across society as a whole. And actually, it hurts even more, or I'm more disappointed to hear black politicians, I'm using black in its positive political sense, so people from minority ethnic communities, because I had hoped that they would understand a broader perspective on these things, but it re-emphasises the point. You know, there are as many differences in any group as in any other group, however you choose to define your group. Not everybody understands racism just because they're from a black or minority ethnic community, just as not all women understand feminism. And even if people do understand how it operates, it doesn't mean to say they've all got the same coping strategies in how they manage that and live with that and deal with that, or the same solutions in relation to what happens because of that. And people's coping strategies are, I think, are really interesting. You know, some people will fit in, you know, and become an honorary one of them, a good one.
The power group.
Yeah. You know, you know, the more if we had more people like you behaving like that, we wouldn't have all the problems we have with all these other people. You know, separating people off. An honorary one of them. That's the word I was trying to find. Honorary one of them. Whereas other people will be absolutely at the other end of the spectrum and hold on to, in all sorts of ways, being the individuals they are with traditions they want to hold on to. You know, some people will just put up with and not say anything and go along with things. Some people will make the jokes first. Some people will get angry. Some people will challenge, even when people are challenging assertively, though, you know, it can be misinterpreted. You can be accused of being a troublemaker, pushing your own agenda, too sensitive, no sense of humour, all those sorts of things. So it can be really difficult to be heard and taken seriously. So some people are given a voice, and often it's because it fits with whatever a broader agenda might be. It is really disappointing. There's an understatement when it's just fuels division, because we need all people, not just those in less powerful groups actually, but those in more, but all people to realise that actually we're in a very wealthy society. We can operate in other ways that benefit all of us, in that it allows us to thrive.
Yeah.
You know, and by that I don't mean that you know, let's share everything out equally. I don't have any objection to people working and being rich, but I do object to the fact that we've got people who've got more money than their great grandchildren can ever spend, whilst we've got children who won't eat tonight. That's, you know, we need to be honest with ourselves at looking at those systems.
It's the why they won't eat tonight, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's not the fault of some people just because they're from black communities, asylum seekers. So we're being encouraged to scapegoat some people, to encourage people to blame them for wider ills that they've got absolutely no responsibility for.
And on that subject, we spoke a little bit about asylum seekers in our 11:30 live streams, which will be available on YouTube. That was a great, interesting conversation as well, which sadly we haven't got time to go into now. But I believe we have covered everything we wanted to talk about. We could keep talking for another 4 hours, couldn't we? But There is a lot of content on your channel. I think all that's left now is for you to sign off to your viewers, and till next time. Thank you, Gillian.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. Oh, should be looking this way. Shows I need to practice this some more. But thank you very much for joining in. Really do appreciate it. And I think the thing to remember is this isn't about favours for some people. This is about a society for us all where we can all thrive. So we can all do something to make a difference. So please keep making a difference. And if you want to continue the conversations, please get in touch about training, about even training to be a licensed trainer so you can deliver this kind of work, or just to continue the conversations directly, because there'll certainly be some other sessions. But for now, thank you. And as I say, keep making a difference.